I share with you a secret of a hidden gem of a cruise line that people often ignore because they think it's just for older people, but it's actually one of the most relaxing, culturally rich, and least nickel and dime options out there. Let's challenge some assumptions and dig into what really makes Holland America Line so different. And as always, you know I love to talk ship. I'm never gonna hold back. I'm gonna tell you the good stuff and the bad. Hi, I'm Melissa, a university professor who loves to cruise, and today we're diving deep into Holland America Line, and it's timely because I just got off a long Holland America Line cruise. Now, if you follow my content for a while, you know I'm passionate about helping you find the perfect cruise experience, and a lot of people miss out on this one, and it pains me because Holland America Line offers something truly distinctive. And before you're thinking, oh my gosh, you must be sponsored, this sounds like a commercial, I promise you it's not. I tell you this all the time, I am not sponsored by any cruise line because I like the freedom to be able to say what I want, to be able to tell you the unvarnished truth, the good and the bad. So in this video, I'm going to uncover everything you need to know about Holland, including their unexpected ties to Carnival, to their actual demographics of the average cruiser, to the really good stuff, but also to the bad stuff that you need to weigh when you make a decision about whether or not this cruise line is for you. So stick with me because by the end of this, you're going to have a clear picture of what sailing Holland America Line is really about, with my honest take. Here's the interesting thing about Holland America Line. How can one cruise brand feel so different yet share the same parent company? So it might surprise you to learn this, but Holland America Line is actually owned by Carnival Corporation. Yes, the same parent company that owns the Turn Up Cruise Line, the party ships, the fun ships, Carnival Cruise Line, and they also own Princess Cruises, which is a brand that's more aligned with Holland America Line. However, if you've sailed on Carnival, do not expect the same experience on Holland. It's very different. These sister brands, they are vastly different. They cater to different preferences. They are wildly different in brand positioning and experience and vibe. And there's a lot about Holland that makes it unique, and it is polar opposite from Carnival. So when you step aboard a Holland America ship, you're gonna immediately notice a distinctly Dutch influence that you're not gonna find on other cruise ships, even on Carnival Corporation ships like Princess and Carnival. Holland America Line is quintessentially Dutch. That's embedded in their brand, and you'll see it in artwork and subtle design elements, and you'll see it in some obvious ways too. On every Holland sailing, they have a super fun orange party, which I really enjoy. And this is just a themed night where everyone, including the crew and all of the officers, really get into it, and they get decked out and they come down too, but everyone wears orange or some orange accessory. Now, pro tip, Holland America Line does a pretty bad job of communicating this to their cruisers. So unless you're a seasoned Holland cruiser, you might not know they do this. So if you're thinking of taking a Holland cruise, make sure you pack something orange, and you can go all out or not. Now, this is not a formal night, it's just a regular night, but some people will wear orange cocktail dresses or orange blazers or more casual clothes or orange boas, but make sure you're prepared for that because it's a really fun experience and it's a very festive atmosphere. Now, on Orange Party Night, Holland will actually serve special Dutch themed food. So in the main dining room that night, you'll see special Dutch foods and desserts, and in their lounges and in their entertainment venues, they'll sometimes pass around Dutch themed like chocolate treats and fun little desserts. Now, another Dutch touch on Holland ships, at least on the newer ships, is that a lot of them, the newer ones, feature the Dutch cafe. I love me some Dutch cafe. I was so sad that I just got off of Amsterdam and they did not have a Dutch cafe. I really missed it because it's awesome. It's included in your cruise fare. It's kind of like one of those specialty cafes, and it offers a bunch of complimentary Dutch favorites. So you can get things like pancakes or Dutch cookies, and it's all included free. Now, they do sell specialty coffees here too, as well as other places that cost extra, but a lot of the things they offer in those Dutch cafes are included free, and they're really good stuff. And you order it, and then you have a table number, and then they bring it out to you. So it's kind of like a semi-self-serve and semi-full serve, and it's really a nice experience. So make sure if you're sailing on Holland to look in advance to see if your ship has a Dutch cafe, because if you're choosing between itineraries, I would prefer and I recommend picking a ship, if there's similar itineraries, with one that has a Dutch cafe versus one that does not. Now let's address the big elephant in the room, or at least the grandpa in the room. And that is this perception that Holland America Line is just for old people. Real truth here, friends, it is true. That stereotype, it exists for a reason, and there are real data that show us that the average Holland America Line cruiser is older than average. Statistics that are available online tell us the average Holland cruiser is 55 to 72, And you're gonna find older cruisers, not just on Holland, but on specific Holland itineraries, like the European sailing I just got off of, like Alaskan cruises, Longer cruises, those with international embarkation ports, those are definitely going to skew older, but that's not always a bad thing. Oh, and also if you sail the more contemporary itineraries with Holland, like their Caribbean itineraries, it does go a little younger, but it's still going to be notably older than what you're going to find on Carnival, Royal Caribbean, or MSC, for example. So keep that in mind if that's important to you. And the elements that make a cruise experience, the cruise experience is going to differ for you based on the average age of the cruiser. So if you're cruising with small children or you love that party vibe, Holland America Line's not going to be for you. It's probably going to be pretty boring. My best friend has a 3-year-old. She took him on their first Holland cruise last year, and she said it was pretty awful compared to Carnival. They just don't have the kids and the population of kids that cruise with them to have robust child programs like you're going to find on Carnival and Royal Caribbean. So if those describe you, Holland might not be for you, or it may be, but just keep those things in mind. So Holland, it definitely does skew older, but there's some positives to that, which I'll explain in a moment. But just know what you're getting into before you book that cruise with Holland. Now let's talk about Holland's entertainment options. So what happens when your favorite lounge disappears and the vibe changes overnight? This is my biggest issue I have with Holland. Because for a long time, one of my absolute favorite things about sailing on Holland America Line was their live entertainment. Specifically, they had a B.B. King's blues band. Their performers were awesome. I loved the genre of music they covered, from soul and old R&B to covers of more modern songs like Bruno Mars. Even though it's the old cruise line, this is the one place in the B.B. King's lounge where I felt that it was more age appropriate for people who aren't just in a nursing home. And even the older folks loved B.B. King's Blues Band. They would be out there dancing every single night. And people in Holland, they do like to dance. So I really loved that. However, recently Holland America Line has started to transition this experience over from B.B. King's to the Rolling Stone Lounge. So it's the same concept. It's a more intimate kind of music club. It's smaller. Some of the ships, it's bigger. It's got 2 stories like on New Statendam. And it's just not the same experience. It's not the same musical focus. And the change was a turnoff for me. I used to seek out Holland America Line because of B.B. King's Blues Band. I just do not think Rolling Stone Lounge has that same fun factor. So it has definitely impacted my personal enjoyment of Holland. Now, I still sail Holland. I still like Holland. As I noted, I just got off of a Holland itinerary and I cruise with Holland because I love their itineraries. They're very unique. We'll talk about that in a moment. But being completely honest, I don't love the entertainment because their entertainment otherwise is pretty lacking. And B.B. King's for me was always a real standout and a real highlight. And now that's kind of gone. So Rolling Stone, not quite the same. I don't love it. Now, in terms of other entertainment, that was always their big thing, was the live music lounge. They do have some standard smaller dance shows or vocal performances. Oftentimes it's a soloist and they're really talented performers, but they're not going to be these high energy, big production or Broadway licensed shows that you're going to find on the other bigger cruise lines. Their entertainment now pretty much is the Rolling Stone Lounge. They also have dueling pianos. Usually they're by the casinos, which as a casino player, I like because I like hearing that while I'm playing the machines. And they do also have comedians, but in my experience, the comedians are pretty lacking. And in fact, I find of all cruise ship comedians, Holland's comedians to be the most cringe because they do focus very much on being PG and appealing more towards a more boomer crowd. And they're PG to appease that crowd. For me, I love a Carnival Cruise comedian or a Royal Caribbean comedian or a Virgin Voyages comedian where they're not going to be afraid to say the F-bomb. They're funny. Their sets are sometimes raunchy. That's what I like. So when I sail on Holland, I still sail Holland. I still like Holland, but I'm not seeking out the entertainment because I don't like the comedians. I don't love Rolling Stone Lounge, and their performances to me are just kind of dull, to be honest. So if you're a big entertainment person and that's really important to you on a cruise, you're going to find the options lacking on Holland compared to the bigger, more mainstream cruise lines. So you can't go into a Holland cruise expecting mega ship level of entertainment and those big shows and thrill rides. That is not what you're going to find on Holland America Line. And one thing I like about Holland is that they haven't made a lot of the deep cuts and the nickel and diming, the cutbacks that a lot of the other cruise lines have made. But one cut was they had a partnership with the Lincoln Center with symphonic music. And I know a lot of old time, long-standing, loyal mariners with Holland. They loved that, but that has been a cutback in recent years as well. I didn't love that as much, so it didn't bother me as much, but I know a lot of cruisers were really unhappy with that. But aside from that, I gotta give props to Holland America because they have resisted a lot of that nickel and diming trend that we are seeing with a lot of other cruise lines. And that's a big perk of Holland America. They don't nickel and dime you to death, and they have retained a lot of those classic cruising touches that a lot of other cruise lines have cut that make the voyage and make cruising feel special. And these are small examples, but these are things that add up. They still have real tablecloths in the main dining room, not just on Elegant Night. They have chocolates on your pillow. On the night of the orange party, they leave little stroopwafel cookies in your room. You get a complimentary gift. Usually it's a Holland America Line tote bag. At the end of your sailing, they even give you a little commemorative Dutch coaster, which is a really nice and surprisingly high quality souvenir. Robes are standard in the staterooms, and best of all, the thing I enjoy the most, their room service is still free, including no delivery fee. Now it's fairly limited. They haven't changed it at least in the last 2 to 3 years. So Holland, if you're watching this, shake up your menu a little bit, please. Those of us that sail you, I don't even sail you that often, usually once or twice a year, change up your room service menu, please. But I'm not complaining about the fact that it's free. That's awesome. And that's rare nowadays in a cruise world that is becoming increasingly pay to play. And speaking of dining on Holland America Line, this is another of its upsides. It is consistently good to excellent. So what makes Holland's buffet one of the best at sea? And what's the one Lido deck item I'll always order? So let's talk about food, because that's always a highlight on any cruise. A lot of people cruise because they love that all-inclusive food aspect. And in my opinion, and based on consistent feedback from my friends that cruise Holland with me and people online, the food on Holland America Line is some of the best at sea. It consistently ranks up there among my favorites across all cruise lines. I do want to note though that the food that seems to be served on sailings that embark out of Europe is different than the food out of sailings in the United States. I prefer the food and the menu out of the United States, but it's always consistently solidly good. Their buffet in particular, I think, is a shining star. What I really appreciate about Holland is I'm normally not a buffet person. I avoid buffets on cruises because it grosses me out. And I love cruising, I love cruise people, but cruise people can be super nasty. And I've seen a lot of gross things at the buffet, especially on lines that are family friendly and there's a lot of kids touching and sneezing. It's disgusting. And so I go many cruises trying to never once eat from the buffet. But I don't have to worry about that on Holland America Line because instead of it being self-serve, the staff serves you. Now, yes, this does slow things down a little bit, especially when you get behind someone who has to look and, you know, they're really slow, but it's pretty well organized because they have different stations. So having the staff serve you makes it a lot more hygienic. And this is a small but significant detail that many cruisers, myself included, really value. Another great complimentary option, it's not Guy's Burgers, which is my favorite cruise food. That's a Carnival staple, but it's Holland's version of it. They have it on the Lido deck. It's called the Dive-In. They offer fresh, made-to-order burgers, hot dogs, and fries. Now, the burgers, they're okay. Hot dogs, really good. And the fries, exceptional. The fries are delicious. If I could take a Carnival Guy's hamburger and marry it with a Holland America Line's Dive-In fries, it would be chef's kiss. These fries are so good, and I do like that you can order them through the app. One thing I don't like about Carnival and Guy's is the line. It's always really long. Even at Johnny Rockets on Royal Caribbean, which you have to pay for, often you have to wait. But with the Dive-In, you can order it on the Navigator app, which is Holland America Line's app, and it's there ready for you to order. And if you're not an app person, you can order in person. They'll give you a little buzzy when your food is ready. So that is a nice perk as well. Although interestingly enough, while they're pretty much on top of the app tech when it comes to Dive-In, Holland is a little bit behind on the app in other ways. For example, you cannot check in on the app before dinner. That's a nice thing that I love about Carnival. It saves a lot of time. It's so much more convenient. So hopefully Holland will continue to evolve when it comes to the tech capabilities of their app. Now, when it comes to dining and dining adjacent, one thing that you should be aware of that could be a turn on or a turn off for you is that Holland America Line tends to be one of the more strict cruise lines when it comes to their dress code and the enforcement of their dress code, specifically in the main dining room and the specialty dining areas. Now, I'm the kind of girl that likes to get dressed up in the MDR every night, and I love Elegant Night, but my boyfriend, he's the polar opposite. He's a casual guy. He doesn't like getting dressed up. He hates wearing a jacket. He feels constrained. And every time we've cruised on Holland, he's always had an issue with the dress code. And they will send you back to your room. If you show up in the main dining room, even on a non-elegant night and you're not in the dress code that they require, they will send you back. They will not let you in. They are particularly stringent when it comes to No tank tops, understandable, but they absolutely forbid shorts, and that includes even the dressier shorts. So make sure you are aware of the Holland dress code and you pack accordingly to avoid any surprises. By the way, I have a free packing guide for cruises that I'll share with you. I'll drop the link below if you want to check that out. And if you do hate getting mussy fussy and you don't want to dress up at all, you just don't eat in the main dining room. As I mentioned, Holland's buffet is really good and you can just go there instead. So you don't have to dress up. Now, let's talk about the big perk of sailing with Holland America Line. And this is why I cruise them at least once a year, because I cruise not just for fun. I don't want to just party. I don't just want to lay on a beach all day. I want to see the world. I want to explore new cultures. I want to go to these different places across the world that aren't just the Bahamas. I love the Bahamas, but come on. So I always turn to Holland when I want those more exotic ports, smaller ports, or I want a slower pace or a foreign embarkation point. This is my favorite cruise line for that. And that's one of the biggest benefits of Holland. They're not in that mega ship race like Royal Caribbean, MSC, Carnival. They are focused more on the cruise experience and the itineraries versus those mega ships with all those bells and whistles. So Holland really prioritizes those more unique ports of call and those diverse itineraries. So again, every time I want to do something other than the standard ports, I always go to Holland. It's my first choice. As I mentioned, I just got off a Western Mediterranean cruise. I have port guides on my website if you want to check those out and read about that experience. I'm also going to make a video about it. And last year I sailed with them on a Baltic cruise, which was really unique. I got the whole Viking history. We got to go to places like Norway, Finland, Denmark, Sweden, Estonia, Germany, and the Netherlands. It was a really amazing, unique itinerary, and it got me to places that I probably otherwise would not have ever gone to. I never would have taken a plane and flown to Estonia, for example, and it ended up being one of my favorite places on earth. And by the way, if you're interested in a Baltic cruise, I made a whole video about that experience. I'll also share that link down in the comments. So if you want to get around and see the world beyond just the Caribbean, this is a great choice. Holland is great because you can visit these lesser visited and the smaller ports because they have smaller ships. They have itineraries built for this, and that's something I love about Holland. Now let's talk about the overall vibe of Holland America, because this can make or break your cruise experience. If you are a high energy, go, 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 party, max out the drink package person, Holland might not be a good fit. But if you really relish a calmer, more subdued, sedate atmosphere, this is your cruise line. Now, I like both and I can enjoy both, so it doesn't matter to me, but depending on my mood and what I'm looking for, I might pick one cruise line over another. Now, here are some things I do love about Holland in terms of those little niches, those little areas of relaxation. One of my favorite spots on every Holland ship is their crow's nest. So this is an area that's perched like a crow's nest at the very highest point of the ship. There are expansive views, so if you're in an interior room like I was on this European cruise, and you dock, you're not ready to get off the ship yet, but you want to see the port, the crow's nest is a great spot for that. The best thing as a coffee lover, it's also where their coffee shop is. It's a perfect spot, it's pretty big, it can get crowded on sea days, but it's always pretty quiet. And what I really love is that Holland makes a ton of board games and puzzles available for guest use at no additional cost. I love going up there with the beautiful views, getting a coffee, working a puzzle. It is so relaxing to me. Now, another thing I love about Holland, I am a nerd to the core. I love a good book. I'm a voracious reader. They have the most amazing onboard libraries. I mean, these things, they're something else. They have a huge selection of books. It's so big in the library, they even have sections like an actual library, and you are welcome to borrow those books during your cruise and return it later. It's truly peaceful and an engaging space. And for a lot of cruisers that are looking to relax and to kick back, that's a game changer. Now let's talk about us degenerates, the casino players. I'm gonna share with you the good and the bad of Holland America Line casinos. And if you're not a casino player, feel free to skip this section. If you are a casino player, let's talk about it. And if you want to be a casino player, actually, this is one way you can earn free cruises. That's actually how I cruise free, is on casino offers. I have a whole guide to how you can leverage cruise casino programs to cruise free. So check that out. I'll drop the links in the comments. Now, this is where Holland wins big, but it also loses a little bit of steam. Now, I am not the biggest fan of Holland America Line casinos. I did just win 2 hand pays, so I'm a big fan of that, but I don't like their casinos. Now, first let's talk about the good. Holland America Line ships, they are, some of them, entirely non-smoking, which I really like. As I mentioned, I just got off of Amsterdam. It had a smoking and non-smoking section, and they were not separated. So basically the non-smoking section still felt like a smoking section, which I did not like. And their casinos generally are smaller with older machines compared to Carnival, Royal Caribbean, MSC, Virgin, other cruise lines. And they do tend to get quite crowded. Now, Virgin tends to have small casinos too, but they don't really cater to the casino players like a lot of the other cruise lines. So I never find Virgin casinos to be crowded, even though they are smaller. But Holland casinos are smaller and they're really crowded. So there are a lot of times, even on this longer itinerary, where I couldn't even get on a decent machine. And that was really frustrating. So Holland isn't top tier for the casino play experience, but the upside of Holland is that they have a pretty strong casino players club program. I find that their comps are pretty reasonably generous compared to the other cruise lines, and I find my bounce back offers to be pretty good. I'm actually taking a 12-day Panama Canal sailing, which is an expensive sailing, later this year off of a free Holland casino offer. So in terms of generosity of comps, I think they're pretty good compared to the others. Now let's talk about cruising with family and kids. Should you bring your kids on a Holland America cruise? Real talk, sure, if they want to be bored. So Holland skews older, so that's great because you're not gonna have an issue of those rowdy kids running up and down the hallway or those packs of unattended children that seem to just roam around ships on the bigger contemporary lines. So that's a plus of Holland. But if you have small kids, this might not be your best choice. One, there's not a lot of other kids for them to play with. Now, if you have a child like mine who's very antisocial, that's not a problem. And my kid also hates kid camp, so that's not a problem. But if your kid does like interacting and making friends on a cruise, they like those kid camp programs, Holland America Line is not your best choice. You're probably better served to go with a different cruise line like Disney, Carnival, Royal Caribbean, and even MSC. Now, the upside is that it is much more calmer and relaxing. You don't have those loud kids. You can actually get in the pool without kids splashing and getting water all over your face and your hair. But that peace and quiet does come with a trade-off, and that is if you are cruising with younger folks and you want to weigh that based on your travel group and the ages and their interests. You're not going to find water slides and ropes courses and things like that. IMAX theaters, they just don't exist on Holland ships. That's not what they're catering to. Now, some kids, again, like mine, she's a quiet kid, she's shy, she doesn't like talking to other kids, she's antisocial sometimes, she probably would be fine on a Holland America cruise, but other kids that are more social or they want more activity, they're probably going to be bored. So ultimately, is Holland America Line a good choice? So let's bring it all together. If you are seeking a relaxed, destination-focused, culture-rich cruise with a touch of classical elegance, consistently good food, and a more mature atmosphere, and you don't need to be entertained all the time, then Holland America Line could be your perfect cruise match. As I mentioned, they offer incredible itineraries. It takes you to diverse parts of the world. They really emphasize culture. As a nerd, I love that a lot of times in their main stage, they'll offer educational sessions about the ports of call. And I love learning about indigenous peoples in Alaska and the Viking culture. That's amazing to me. I love that. So if you like that, you'll probably like Holland. And while their entertainment options are lacking, the core experience is pretty refined and enjoyable, but it doesn't really feel stuffy. It's not like Cunard where everyone's decking out in tuxes and ball gowns every night. So it's still relaxed enough to where it doesn't feel stuffy. Now, if you want that nonstop party, you need to be entertained. You get bored easily. You're traveling with kids who expect a lot of entertainment. Or you are on more of a budget because Holland is not the cheapest option. If those are your top priorities, you probably want to pick a different cruise line. But as with everything with cruising, I always encourage cruisers and have to remind myself all the time, it's all about having an open mind and going into your cruise experience with a positive mindset. And with that, you can never go wrong, regardless of whatever itinerary or cruise line that you pick. So I want to know, have you ever cruised Holland America Line? What do you think? Drop your comments below. And if you found this information helpful, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and visit my website, profmelissa.com, for tons of free cruise information, including free port guides and everything else in between.